Hey all, so this is our war against GT40 who came in first place last season. So we know that we have to be on top of things. They focus more on war than on AQ, so we always expect some interesting rank ups. And the rank 4 Penny Parker that I have to take on Powersnack right away is no exception. I only have 4 fights this war, but 2 of them are rank 4 mini bosses. So focusing on Penny, it's the same basic read fight that pretty much anyone on Powersnack is. The only difference is that we have to use the House of X pre-fight to make sure that our stuns are passive, because then she can't purify them when she tries to auto-block and get in our way. You'll notice that Matt Hill here appears not to be running willpower, which means that we're not going to be able to do all of that damage throughout the fight from reversing it, because I also run Despair. So well played from Matt there. But there's really very, very little to this fight. It's just a slow, very heavy fight. And that's it. Like, once you've turned off Powersnack, and by the time backup recovery becomes a thing, we'll actually slightly reverse it. Once you've turned off those 2 threats, this is basically a vanilla Penny Parker with a lot of health. And so that's why this fight looks so clean. Because as long as Reed keeps hitting her during those passive stuns, which will cause her to try to auto-block and therefore burn up her blue spider charges, she almost doesn't have abilities. And so this just becomes extremely simple. We've already fully ramped. We have 3 of each of the pre-fights. We already have our Careful Study passive. The first Careful Study passive is all I worry about in any war fight, because even if I wanted to push her to Special 2, and I don't, the odds of doing that 3 times in a row while you have all 3 suppressions up are basically non-existent. So we consider that fully ramped, then we push to the Special 3, which gives us that massive Fury based on how many debuffs are on her. And this is a rank 4 Penny Parker in the bin in about 2 minutes. If I had bothered to heavy counter that Special 1, would have had it under the 2-minute mark. That's okay, playing it nice and safe. And there we go with 92% health left. Despite me blocking most of a Special 1 that I intended to dash back from. Input issues for this war were rough. Anyway, on to the second rank 4 mini-boss. We have this thing on Footloose, which to me just screamed She-Hulk. Like, Shang-Chi would be great here. There are a number of counters. I could have used Tigra, honestly, but especially with Reed already on the team, She-Hulk is just an amazing thing counter. Your biggest risk is actually ramping too many Furies and hitting too hard. And so, if we did not have Reed on the team, then part of this fight would actually probably need to be allowing the Furies to fall off periodically so that we could keep doing good damage. Thankfully, we don't really have to worry about that because the power stings are going to do so much from us. We are constantly applying debuffs between our stuns, our slows, and the exhaustions on the Special 1. We did get those pre-fights from Reed because that's going to help us blunt kinetic transference and avoid him getting too much power. You can tell that I tried to go for a heavy there and just nothing happened. Luckily, I caught it and backed off. Like I said, inputs were being weird this war. But even though we are not focusing on building a bunch of Furies, like I said, it was part of my plan to let them fall off if need be. We're still about halfway through this at just over the minute mark. And this, to me, proves something that I like to talk about with She-Hulk, which is that, yes, Thing is a special case, where the Furies can actually work against you. But I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, you know, She-Hulk just isn't worth it for me to play. I'm not good enough. I can't keep the Furies up, and so she's just not worth it. But I think the fact that She-Hulk can take down this rank 4 Thing, one of the beefiest defenders in the entire game, without ramping her Furies too high, in only 2 minutes, tells you just how much damage she does have. Now, watch for at the end here. I'm going to leave the damage analysis up for a second because fully half of the damage was power stings, right? The synergy was doing a lot of work. But what that also proves is that she was on pace for doing all that damage with an average of like 4 Furies up in about 4 minutes. And that was 200,000 health. So, like, she's not a speed demon if you're not keeping the Furies up, but she is absolutely serviceable. And so, if you need the utility She-Hulk provides, just don't let that scare you off, is what I'm trying to say. So then we have this Annihilus here. He's been pretty popular here because most of the ways that you use to counter Annihilus involve Nullify, or at least Armor Break, so that you can remove his Cosmic Control Rod. Those feed Return Policy and cause him to gain a bunch of power, and then his specials do extra damage thanks to the prowess he gets from the node. So, to avoid that, we're using House of X. Because something that's occasionally overlooked is that the reason Annihilus feels stun immune is that while he has the Cosmic Control Rod, he purifies stun debuffs, but he can't purify stun passives. So the House of X pre-fight gets around this, and something that I like to talk about is that Magneto House of X can actually use the House of X pre-fight. He is himself a hero. And so he can just take this fight. Now, I did get hit there. It was not ideal. I was trying to bait his special ones. He didn't play nice. That is how Annihilus works sometimes. There is a reason I used an invulnerability boost on this one. But besides that, he really just makes this kind of a vanilla fight. It's like the Reed one as well. I don't normally go for the special 3, but I didn't want to throw too many special ones in case some of them triggered return policy, since armor breaks are coded as a pseudo-nullify and cause that to proc. The ability accuracy can bypass it, but that's why we went for the special 3 there, to just get bigger crits without worrying about anything else. Could have also gone for the special 2. You can use power backs with House of X, and the special 2 gets a fair amount back if it crits at all. Those degens can be sizable, but really, none of that really matters. You just have control over the fight, and then he wins it for you. Like I said, it basically makes you feel like you're not even on the war map. It's like a vanilla fight. No real complicating factors, and I love that. So heading into this Dragon Man, what you're going to see right here is me dramatically overboosting for this fight. And the reason why is that often with Dragon Man, the way you control his power gain is that you parry him to, or otherwise stun him, which we're not going to do here because it's Hard Knock Life, or you block his special 1. But on this node, blocking his special 1 too many times is going to give him prowess, which will then cause his specials to go unblockable. I personally find the full evade of the special 2 a little bit scary, and if it backs you up, the special 1 can be as well. So we are relying on our last 2 pre-fights from Mr. Fantastic, a power start with She-Hulk, and power backs, because between her Furies, class advantage, and the other boosts, once we get rid of the power charge once there, we are just going to be able to spam these pretty much. Because now we not only have Reed's Petrify, we also have hers, and so we are reducing his power gain by, I believe, 150%, and therefore half reversing it, allowing us to just not worry about his specials and keep throwing these big special 2s. I say keep throwing, but I actually only needed 2 of them, finished it off with a special 1, and the whole thing took 38 seconds. So I may have overcorrected there, but reading through the combination, I saw how it was a good placement, I saw how it could go wrong, and that's why we did that. Anyway, like I said, only 4 fights. I was a bit nervous for this one because 2 of them were rank 4s, but thankfully it went pretty well. As I alluded to, input issues felt really rough for this war, and I think that they contributed to, is what I'll say, a fair number of deaths for us, especially in BG3. I'm not going to say caused, because every one of those players would be the first to say, no, I could have salvaged it. I should have won it. It is my fault. That is bad play. And that's why GT40 won and we didn't. But it still feels bad when you know, okay, but if there wasn't that spot where you tried to dash back and it didn't work, you would have won even though you made a mistake. Those deaths are a little rough to deal with. So I want to be very clear, I'm not trying to take anything away from our opponent's victory. They played very well. They probably had some input issues as well. I'm not saying we would have won without that, but man, losses when you know that was a factor just don't feel good, right? So I really hope that Kabam is able to get that input refractor out to the rest of us soon, because we're coming up on 9 months at this point. Maybe we've already passed that mark of these issues, and I know it's a big fix. I know they're working on it. But man, am I tired of talking about it and thinking about it and planning around it. Anyway, so that puts us at 1-2 going into the end of the first week. Not an ideal opening, but probably an inevitable consequence of coming in top 3 last season and having one of the 5 highest war ratings headed into this season. We were gonna get tough matchups, and if we don't fully show up, we're gonna lose them. So we just need to make up that ground over the rest of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed these fights. I absolutely love bringing Reed and She-Hulk, and I have assigned House of X for multiple fights in BG3, which has become something of a running joke, but never actually gotten to take one of them myself. So was very happy to get that Annihilus fight. He crushed it as usual. And I will catch y'all in the next one. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care.